Congressman, let's go ahead and start. Obviously, we just heard President Trump give his remarks and address the nation about what has happened in Iran right now. What has been your initial reaction hearing this today? Obviously, you have quite a bit of knowledge that you're able to share with us as far as your involvement in different areas of this. So we would love to hear kind of your reaction. And if you have any local ties to this as well, like you mentioned earlier, Oak Ridge, we'd love to hear about that.
Sure. Prior to the president speaking, when I received word about the very successful attacks on the Iran nuclear facilities, three in specific, I put out a statement 100% in support of President Trump, the mission, the success, and everything that we needed to do and did do tonight. This is transformational in a good way. Iran, for too many decades, has been the prime, sad state sponsor of terrorism throughout the Middle East. Their rhetoric of hate towards Israel, towards the United States, towards the free world has been horrible. What made it worse was they were on the verge of being able to build and sadly deliver a nuclear weapon. They were unabashed in their hatred towards Israel and the United States. They had promised to use it. Thanks to President Trump and our great men and women in our armed services and our great ally Israel, Iran will not be able to deliver anything nuclear anymore. Their nuclear program is totally devastated, demolished, as it should be.
And also, I know, obviously, prior to this, just yesterday, we had heard from the president, or at least from the Secretary of State, saying that the president had a 2 week window that he was going to give Iran. Obviously, tonight, we know that that has now changed. Is there any insight you can give us as to that change?
Yes. Well, for years, the United States has told Iran no to a nuclear weapon, no to a nuclear program that could even begin to develop a weapon. Through weak presidents, both Republican and Democratic, nothing was done. We saw the ill effects of this in North Korea. North Korea engaged in a program that they wanted a nuclear program and a nuclear weapon. Sadly, we look the other way, and they have a nuclear capability now in North Korea with a horrible dictator. With Iran, we could not allow this to happen. And President Trump, being as fair and kind and rational as he is, gave Iran 60 additional days in which to come to the table, give up the pursuit of a nuclear weapon. And up until yesterday, their rhetoric of hate continued to spew, and they said they were going to continue to embark on this. Let's make it clear. Iran had a very sophisticated, multi-placed nuclear potential arsenal that they were building, where they were enriching uranium to weapons grade potential, and they would have had an ability to deliver that with a very capable ballistics missile program. Both of their programs, ballistic missile, conventional ballistic missile, and nuclear, are now totally destroyed. That is a big step in the right direction. We gave them every opportunity. Now, Iran has one last opportunity to sue for peace, to finally come to the table and be a positive actor in the international realm. If they do not do this, it will continue. And I will say this, Iran has been launching, I think, against international law, missiles at civilian sites in Tel Aviv and in Haifa, in Israel, and killing civilians. That has got to stop. It's got to stop today. And sadly, it is continuing.
And also, for you had mentioned Oak Ridge earlier.
Sure.
Is there anything that, in any sense, it may not be the case, anything you can comment on as far as if Oak Ridge played any role in this at all, or in the bigger picture of things, how Oak Ridge could play into it?
Well, it's a great question. As we've spoken earlier, I'm the chairman of the Energy and Water Subcommittee of Appropriations. I sit on the Full Appropriations Committee. I'm on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. But the Department of Energy, through the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, which I fund, basically manufactures and is basically charged with the duty of procuring manufacturing nuclear weapons. At Oak Ridge, we do the secondaries for nuclear weapons to keep our arsenal strong. The primaries are done at a sister site in Texas called Pantex. But all over the United States at NNSA facilities, I can tell you this: the United States has the strongest, best, most accurate nuclear arsenal in the world. How does that translate into things? First of all, uh, our good friends at Oak Ridge not only are experts in procurement, but they're also experts in something that we call non-proliferation. And what that means is keeping the bad weapons out of the hands of the bad actors. When you look at countries like Iran, rest assured, or anywhere else in the world where fissile material would come up, the folks in Oak Ridge, the folks at the NSA, can basically come out and basically take that away, if you will, in a very peaceful way. So, in our great state of Tennessee, Oak Ridge at the reservation, in addition to having the greatest national lab in the country, which also has a role. It's mainly a science lab, but it's about 20% weapons. We are in the thick of this. I am in the thick of this because I fund the entire nuclear enterprise, not only on the front side for procurement, but also on the customer side for the Department of Defense. So, what that does, it basically gives myself and others an expertise to know exactly where Iran was, where they were going, and most importantly, now where they'll never be able to go again.
And we also know that the president has said a couple of times now that this is the time for peace, for Iran to react to this peacefully now, and come to the table in that way. For those who see the news that the US has now bombed Iran, obviously there might be some reactions of fear in that. Are we getting started into a conflict ourselves? Anything that you can add to as far as public reaction regarding any fears that may have been brought about because of the news of this?
An excellent question. The United States, and specifically President Trump, has showed and used tremendous restraint over the past few months. He and we have given Iran, through diplomatic channels, through outward comments, every opportunity for Iran to come to the table and back away from the precipice of building a nuclear weapon. Now that has been destroyed. Their conventional forces are weak. They've got a very weak, small navy. They do have some options that they can engage in terms of hopefully not mining the Straits of Hormuz. Their army is weak. Their ballistic missile capacity has been decimated now, and they're running out of options. So, yes, they still have an opportunity. The regime, which has refused to negotiate in the past, the regime now can come to the table and be a good international actor or not. If they persist in this, they will continue to be punished, primarily by Israel. But President Trump made it clear tonight they will be punished additionally by the United States, and I'm sure by our allies who want to see a lasting peace in the Middle East. Iran was a major disruptor. They were an agent of evil. They've been an agent of evil. Tonight, they are attenuated. They've been weakened as they should have been. They should have done this voluntarily. It's been done to them militarily. It's time for them to straighten up and act right. If they don't, there will be dire consequences.
Now, we also know we had gotten the reports of the B 2 bombers having some flight traffic data earlier today. Those same bombers, I'm not sure if you know, are those the same ones that carried out that bombing in Iran?
They were not. To the brilliance of the military, I'm going to use the term decoy. The bombers that were in the air could not have gotten apparently to the targets in time. Fortunately, we have tremendous resources with the B 2 bomber. I also want to give tremendous shout out and success. The other two sites that were hit by our great United States Navy. Submarines were used to launch between 300 and 400 Tomahawk missiles to finish off the other two sites. So the bunker busters were used on the main site.
Congressman, things may have frozen here for just a moment. Mary Beth, are they frozen on
That was
your
about a
end?
half mile deep launching these Tomahawk missiles hit the other sites. All three sites, nuclear sites, have been decimated.
Congressman, I'm so sorry to interrupt. It froze for just a moment while you were describing that. Can you go over that one more time with us about which missiles were used on which sites?
Certainly. Um, First and foremost, the bunker busters were done by the B 2 bombs that actually hit one of the sites. The other two sites were done by our great United States Navy submarines. We don't know what class, probably an enhanced Columbia class, but we don't know. But they actually launched between 300 and 400 Tomahawk missiles to the other key sites in Iran, the nuclear sites. These sites had been previously hit by the Israelis. They were finished off by these Tomahawk missiles that were fired from a range of about 400 miles away. Extremely potent, extremely accurate. Great kudos to our great United States Navy and our submarine fleet that did an outstanding job.
Wonderful. I believe my last question here for you as well is obviously this was a very stealthy mission, as you mentioned, with a decoy here and there. And President Trump has mentioned multiple times that we were the only military in the world that could have made this happen. Can you talk a little bit about your confidence in our U.S. military in being able to bring an end to this conflict, hopefully? But even if there are continuous threats because of this, we're hoping obviously not for that, but for our U.S. military protecting our citizens here, the confidence that you have in that.
One of the reasons I continue on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee to fully fund our great defense is because the United States military, in all phases, is superior to any fighting force in the world. Our nuclear arsenal is incredible. God willing, we never have to use it. That's for a deterrence effect. We want to keep that strong and potent and powerful and modernized. Oak Ridge does a big part of that. I fund that. That basically makes sure that nowhere else in the world, whether it's Russia, China, or any other rogue nation, now Iran can't do it, that would ever threaten to use a nuclear weapon. In terms of conventional weapons, let me pick something like the F 35. The F 35, I was privileged to go see on an assembly line in Dallas. This is by far the best fighter plane in the world. Our adversaries in Russia and China are at least a good 10 years plus behind us with that. It is a truly phenomenal aircraft. Now, I will say this in certain areas, and I'll be specific, hypersonics and other areas, China and Russia have moved ahead in some very key spaces, but the United States will be able to get into this space, stay with them, and I believe ultimately beat them. But the best thing about the United States military is it's the strongest, most efficient, and logistically, we get our men, women, and material to the place quicker and better than anywhere else in the world. The Russians and Chinese do not have that skill level to move men and women and material to the fight quicker and better than we do. So we are by far the best. The best part about this, our allies know it and our foes know it. Iran got a message that they would not listen to time and time again. I want all of our listeners to know that President Trump and the world gave Iran every opportunity to peacefully come to the world and back away from this. They refused to do that. They ramped up their hatred rhetoric towards Israel and to the United States. They paid dearly for it tonight. They will no longer have a nuclear capability. That is critically important. And if they continue along this path, President Trump has made it clear that their conventional military apparatus will also be affected.
Now, this might appear to be a bit of a silly question, but the term World War III has been used multiple times throughout um, different people, all across social media, of course. Would you describe this as maybe a way to try to stop a world war before something like that happens, or do we
Absolutely.
feel okay?
Yes.
Give me a little
Uh,
bit about that.
Certainly. I grew up, I was born in 1962, so I grew up at the tail end of the Cold War and during the era of what we called MAD, mutually assured destruction. There was an evil empire that is no longer there called the Soviet Union. Sadly, that it's Russia now and a host of other countries. Russia is still a bad actor, but when it was the Soviet Union, it was larger. They had a very large nuclear arsenal all over the Soviet Union, and we were on the brink of nuclear war constantly. We saw when I was about 10 days old, President Kennedy very successfully thwart Khrushchev and the Russians in Cuba with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, with the advent of nuclear weapons, the world has always been a much more dangerous place ever since their creation and sadly the spread. There's about 10 countries, maybe 11 in the world that have an ability to create and deliver a nuclear weapon. The United States has the best and strongest nuclear arsenal in the country. Having said that, I think President Trump's actions tonight basically keep us from an expanded conflict. God forbid if Iran had ever launched a nuclear weapon into Israel or towards the United States or to any other peace loving country, it would have been a disaster and a potentially escalating factor. What we need now is a regime change in Iran. The people in Iran need to stand up, get rid of this radical, terrorist, Islamic, revolutionary theocracy that they've got, and put in place a democratic government that wants peace. Once again, I'm old enough to remember the Shah of Iran. The Shah was the leader of Iran for years. He was deposed in 1979, but Iran used to be a peaceful player in the Middle East. Many countries were. Uh, Iraq under Saddam Hussein became aberrant. He's gone. They are weakened. And once again, we cannot let any one nation ever rise with evil rhetoric, arms, whether they're nuclear or conventional, to do damage in that region. I do believe if we are not careful, it could be a tinderbox and in the Middle East and have a situation where there could be an escalation. But President Trump's actions tonight, I think, deactivated a lot of that and let the world know that America is ready not only to lead, but be the leader of peace in the free world.
And we know that those soldiers made it back here safely, according to the president. And I guess really to have you heard anything about this mission that they were given as far as um, obviously successful attack is what it's been called. Anything that you have heard from the president as far as specifics about how they're doing, where they're at tonight?
We will be fully briefed. I will be fully briefed when I go back to Washington Monday. Sometimes those briefings are classified, so I cannot discuss what I would be told in there either prior or doing. If it is in fact unclassified, we certainly will be willing to share that with you. But what I do know is this uh, the B 2 bombing mission on the main site was successful with 6 bunker bombs. Our sailors, our great United States Navy, were very successful in launching 300 to 400 Tomahawk missiles from a submarine, hitting 2 different sites from about 400 miles away. So Iran tonight has no longer a capability to work towards producing a nuclear weapon. The world is an infinitely safer place because of Donald Trump, because of the United States of America, and because of our great armed forces.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to add?
Nope, I just look forward to getting back up there, getting the briefings, and sharing what I can with you all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. You have a very restful night. I know that it's been a very busy day for you, but thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing a bit of time with us.
It's always good to see you, Maggie. Thank you.